Okay, so what if I told you that a civilization, one that was actually bigger and older than ancient Egypt, existed and we only really found out about it 100 years ago? We're talking about a world of sprawling cities, incredible engineering, and amazing art that, for thousands of years, was just completely lost to history. Let's get into it. What you're looking at here is the Indus Valley Civilization. And you can see this was not some small little cluster of villages. At its absolute peak, this thing was enormous. It stretched all the way across modern-day Pakistan and into India, from Afghanistan down to the coast. It was one of the big three early civilizations, along with Egypt and Mesopotamia. But it was, by far, the biggest. So the big question is, right, how could a civilization of this sheer size just disappear from our collective memory? Well, our story really begins with its rediscovery. And to be clear, this wasn't just some flash in the pan. We're talking about a history that spans 2,000 years. The first settlements started popping up around 3500 BCE. By 2800 BCE, it had exploded into this fully mature urban society that was thriving for almost 1,000 years. It was only then that things started to go downhill, with the whole civilization kind of fading out around 1500 BCE. So when archaeologists in the 1920s started digging up sites like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, this is what they found. I mean, just look at that. These weren't primitive huts. These were massive, meticulously planned cities, sprawling urban centers that were home to tens of thousands of people, all built with an absolutely incredible level of sophistication. What's so amazing is the contrast, right? You have these huge cities, and then you have these tiny, masterfully carved seals. They were usually made from a soft soapstone and were probably used in trade, to stamp goods and mark ownership. Every single one is like a miniature work of art, and they all have this mysterious script that, to this day, we still can't read. Okay, so what was it actually like to live inside one of these ancient, groundbreaking cities? You can see their genius for organization just by looking at a city map of Mohenjo-Daro. It's not some chaotic mess of buildings, it's laid out on a grid. The streets cross at perfect right angles. The city was basically split in two. You had a raised citadel, probably for important public buildings and rituals, and then a much bigger lower town where everybody lived. This is serious urban planning 4,500 years ago. And this standardization went all the way down to the literal building blocks. They didn't just use mud bricks that would dissolve in the rain, nope. They mass-produced baked bricks that were waterproof and super durable. And the craziest part, across hundreds of different sites over hundreds and hundreds of miles, the bricks were almost all made to a perfect 1 to 2 to 4 ratio. That kind of uniformity, that points to a highly organized, maybe even centralized government. Their engineering skills also gave them some incredible public works. On one side here, you're seeing the Great Bath of Mohenjo-Daro, this huge watertight pool that was probably used for important religious ceremonies. And next to it, that's a covered sewer drain. Almost every single house was hooked up to this citywide sanitation system. I mean, think about that. That's a concept that wouldn't show up again in many parts of the world for thousands of years. But these cities were so much more than just engineering marvels, right? They were filled with people. And we can get a real sense of who they were through the amazing things they made and the vast trade networks they built. You can see the incredible artistic range of this culture in just these two pieces. On the left, we have the famous priest-king statue. It's formal, it's serious, it has this very calm, authoritative vibe. But then on the right, you have the bronze dancing girl. She's relaxed, she's confident, she's just full of life. These two statues show a culture that was capable of deep seriousness and, at the same time, this really dynamic, living energy. And, oh man, were they skilled craftsmen. The evidence shows they were some of the first people in the world to weave cotton. They set up entire towns, like one called Chanhudaro, that were basically just giant bead-making factories. They were experts at metalworking, casting tools in art and copper and bronze. And they made this beautiful, distinctive pottery, usually painted with these complex designs in black over a red background. But here's the thing. All of this incredible craftsmanship wasn't just fueled by what they could find nearby. Oh no. The Indus people were part of a massive international supply chain. Just look at this table. They were importing gold from Afghanistan and Iran, copper from Oman, that beautiful blue stone lapis lazuli from way up in Afghanistan, and even silver all the way from Mesopotamia. This map really shows you just how connected they were. We've actually found texts from Mesopotamia that talk about trading with a land called Meluha, which almost all historians agree was the Indus Valley civilization. We found Indus seals and beads in the ruins of Mesopotamian cities, proving there was this thriving, sophisticated trade going on by land and by sea. They were a major player in the ancient world. But this incredible story doesn't really have a clear ending. And that brings us to the final and definitely the greatest mystery of them all. Where did these amazing people go? This is the question that just haunts archaeologists. I mean, after nearly 1,000 years of stability and wealth, why did these incredible cities start to empty out? Why was their advanced culture just forgotten? What on earth could cause an entire civilization to basically vanish off the face of the earth? Well, there's no single easy answer, but there are a lot of theories. Maybe it was climate change. The monsoons they depended on got weaker, or a huge river system they lived on dried up. A massive earthquake could have changed the course of the rivers they needed to survive. Something they just overused their environment, cutting down too many trees. Others have suggested they were invaded, or that a deadly disease swept through their cities. The most likely answer, though, is that it wasn't just one thing, but a slow decline caused by a combination of these problems hitting one after another. And that brings us right back to the ultimate mystery. You see, unlike in Egypt or Mesopotamia, we can't read their writing. We have no text to tell us their history in their own words. We don't know the names of their kings, their myths, their laws, or even what they called themselves. The real answers, the true secrets of the Indus Valley, are locked away in this beautiful, complex script. And until we find the key, the full story of this incredible lost civilization is still just waiting to be read.